A few years ago, I stopped sharing my kids on social media. I was never a family influencer. I was never a person whose content was focused around her kids, but I had kids and I occasionally shared photos, stories, anecdotes about them because, like many of us, I started using Instagram casually when it came out, when there were filters like Valencia and we were posting mostly photos of coffee, bad lunches, and putting a heavy filter on it so that the image was basically unrecognizable, and also adding a border. We were really into borders for some reason. But I started sharing pictures of my kids because I really did not think about it. I didn't think about it. I was a person who considered myself an internet person. My hometown was AOL. That was my first address, was AOL. That's not entirely true, but I am a millennial, a senior millennial, one of the first millennials. And I came of age with the internet. I was all about LiveJournal. I think I still probably have like 30 or 40 that are live out there. Blogs, Tumblr. I was really into Tumblr. I thought of the internet as a place where everyone was my friend, or as a diary that anybody could read, but obviously wasn't. I think most of the things that I posted got like maybe 1 or 2 likes, but things changed. Things changed very suddenly for me and also slowly for me. I started getting more followers after my husband died of brain cancer, really upped my audience there for a while. He died in 2014. If he had died in 2024, I probably would have been one of those people on TikTok dancing and being like, my husband died. It was tragic. Now I've got a baby, but instead I was on Tumblr. I was on Tumblr blogging and writing about my feelings. And part of my life at the time was that I was a parent. From when I started my Instagram till Aaron died, most of the people who followed me on Instagram were people who knew me. And I remember sharing photos of my son, making up a hashtag for him, making a hashtag that then pulled automatically into his personal Tumblr, which was somehow password protected, and for some reason password protected, almost as if I knew this is a violation of my kid's privacy. I shouldn't do this anymore. But I did it. I did it. And when I look back at that time, from when Aaron was sick to after Aaron died to when I finally decided I should not be doing this, I know why I was doing it. I was doing it because I had lost my partner. I'd lost the father of my child. I'd lost the person who cared the most about this kid, the person that I would normally be sharing this stuff with, the person that I would be able to look at and say, look at what he did. He did the most amazing thing. And I used the internet to fill that for me, to be a witness for my son growing up, to be a witness for what we were going through. It was a symptom of our modern times, possibly a maladaptive coping mechanism. But what I did not think about was my son. I didn't think about the fact that he was a person whose life was starting to be defined by me. And he's a part of my life, but he doesn't belong to me. His story is not mine, and his story is not mine to tell. So when I finally stopped, I thought, wow, I'm better than everyone. Look at me making this choice about my son's privacy. You won't see photos of my kid online. No. And I'm going to delete the ones that are in my control to delete. But I also found something that I wrote on a parenting website when my kid was young, when I was still in. What is it? Where is the sound coming from? Do you know what this is? This is my dead husband saying hello. This is fucking psycho, dude. I was not playing Pantera. Hi, Aaron. I hear you. Okay. Where were we? That was my husband, Aaron, being like, remember when you had a superiority complex after I died? Or because you decided to not. That was him saying hi. And I believe in that shit. So bear with it. Where were we? What were we talking about? I decided to stop sharing my kid on social media. I decided to stop doing that. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so much better than everybody. That's where we were. I found an article that I wrote back when I was sharing my child on social media. And it was like a strangely defensive take where I was talking about how I reserve the right to change my mind and be wrong in the future, that, it was a way for me to connect with people. There was some awareness in that, but there was also a strange defensiveness. Like, I knew that it was wrong. I knew that it was wrong, even if I was not a mom influencer, even if I was not making any money off of it. I knew that it was wrong because I was sharing aspects of my kid's life that there was no way he could consent to. When he's 2, when he's 3, when he's 4, when he's 11, like he is now, or even when he's 14, I don't want the moments that I have with my kids, even the moments that I'm documenting for ourselves, I don't want there to be any shadow of a doubt as to why I'm taking that photo, why I'm recording this moment. When I stopped sharing my kids, I didn't make a huge announcement, but I just stopped doing it. I wiped a bunch of the stuff on my accounts, and I got a little bit of feedback, not a lot, but I got a few messages of people wondering why I had stopped posting about my kids. And no offense to any of the people who reached out, no offense to any of the people who enjoyed seeing photos of my kids. I stopped for that reason, because it's actually a privilege to get to know a person in real life. It is a privilege to know somebody's child, to know things about them. There is no reason for a stranger to know our kids' names, to know what their likes and dislikes are, to know where they go to school or their bedtime routine or any of these things. And we have just normalized something that is very, very abnormal. And I say this as a person who also has friends and people that I respect who made different choices for their kids and who like seeing their updates about their kids online, and who knows in my heart that it is not the right thing for me to be doing or for my kids. And a few years into this, a few years into no longer sharing my kids on social media, I started to see that I was not the only person who felt this way. There was actually a movement of people who believe that kids should not be content. And on one of my many nights, laying in bed, scrolling, promising myself I'm going to go to sleep, get 8 hours of sleep, start my next day rested, but instead I am staring at my phone, scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. This video came across my feed on TikTok. Grant is a parent. Some might call him a recovering sharent. He had built a huge TikTok following that often featured his children, and he announced in this video that he would no longer be sharing his kids online. I got to interview Grant. He is wonderful. He is so wise. He is so smart. Grant and his wife made this decision and stepped back from producing content with their children, even though they were making a decent living at this. And even though they were setting money aside for the kids, which is something that parents are not required to do in the same way that they're required to do when their kid is a SAG-AFTRA actor or working in show business. Parents who feature their kids in social media aren't required to save any money for them, aren't required to compensate them in any way. He did. He went through very similar justifications that I did, which is we're just sharing our lives. Like, the kids even like it, right? Grant made this announcement and the response was really positive. And he and his wife still have a TikTok account. They're still making content just without their kids. So it can be done. It's really hard to talk about parenting decisions without touching a nerve. It is basically like hitting that third rail. It is sticking a fork in an outlet, because when you talk about the way that you parent, people who parent differently automatically feel judged. And in some cases, that's because they are being judged. And in cases, at my worst, I'm judging you. I won't pretend that I'm not, and I know that I'm being judged also. It is truly probably the worst part of being a parent. And I like to believe that all parents are really trying their best, and we are trying to make the best decisions with the information that we have at the time. And the more information I got, the more obvious it was that this was the right choice for us. It does not take a genius to look around and see that social media is not the healthiest place on earth. The US Surgeon General has released information basically begging parents to get their kids off social media. There's a book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, basically urging parents not to give their kids smartphones until they are at least 14 years old. I'm not thriving in this space. Okay, we are not meant to get all of this information constantly or put out all of this information. And if it's not great for me, it's probably also not great for my kids. Since I made this decision, since I stopped sharing my kids, they are a lot happier. Nobody stops them anymore to say, "Oh, aren't you so-and-so?" Strangers don't know things about them that they weren't there to witness, which can be really disturbing for a kid. And they know that when I'm recording something, when I'm taking a photo, it's for me to remember, not for other people to look at. But when we know better, we can do better. And I just know better now. I know that it is a privilege to get to know somebody. I know that privacy is really important. And I actually have this theory that in the future, the biggest flex for a person is going to be being unfindable online, having no digital footprint whatsoever, but we'll see if that's true. I have like notoriously bad instincts. In high school, I had to take a class called computers and we had to learn how to write an email. And I said, who would ever write an email? I went to Europe in, speaking of being better than people, I studied abroad. Ooh, cool. In like 2003, 2004, and I was introduced to SMS messaging and I wrote in my journal, it's the dumbest thing. Who would type a message on their phone instead of making a phone call? I wrote that. I believed that in my heart. I was like, it'll never take off. I also wrote, who would ever want to take a photo with their cell phone? Don't ask me. I am not a futurist. I am a pastist. Okay. I'm a fucking moron, but we know better. We do better. I have a full interview with Grant, who's really wise, really smart. It's available wherever you get podcasts. The episode is called Meet the Sharents. I'm Nora McInerny, and sometimes things are just terrible. Thanks for asking.